Lesson 11. Expanding your self-definition. There's a principle which you may well have heard of. It's called the Peter principle. The Peter principle is that everybody gets promoted to his own level of inefficiency. The idea behind this is that if you're good at what you're doing, then people naturally will think to promote you. And you'll keep on being promoted until you reach that level where you're no longer any good and therefore can't be further promoted. And you're, at that time, functioning on a level where you're much less efficient than you would have been beforehand. There's a lot of truth to this. It's a little, of course, it's humorous also. In our own lives, too, we tend to grow to that point where we not only reach a limit to our growth, but a limit to our creativity. People learn to do one thing well and then just keep doing the same thing, They become psychological antiques, you might say. They are predictable in what they say, what they do, what they sing, the way they act, the way they walk. They develop kind of a habit-bound pattern to their existence. Now we need to expand our self-definition, and we need also to have a self-definition of a sort. It's good, for example, to say to yourself, I can succeed, I am successful, or I am healthy, or I am a friend to everybody, or I am whatever it is that you want to develop in yourself, and convince your mind of the truth of that until it becomes so. But at the same time, once you've convinced yourself that this is what you are, then you start to limit yourself. Then the Peter principle comes in. You become that and nothing more. And therefore, it seems to me that even better than working on self-definition is it to always keep in mind a sense of inner freedom. To affirm not I can do it, but it can be done. I had a very interesting experience in college. I wasn't a very careful student. I'm afraid that was my rebellious period. And I didn't come to class very often. In fact, let's face it, I hardly came to class. And I was taking a course in Greek. And I think I did 3 assignments, or maybe 2.5 assignments all semester. I remember when I'd come to class toward the end of the semester, which was fairly irregularly, the teacher would have us translate passages from the Greek into the English, and I would recognize such words as and the. And because my college was near Philadelphia, I would recognize philos and adelphos, which means love, and brother, because Philadelphia means the city of brotherly love. So I had that one down pat. But beyond that, I didn't shine, let's say. And the teacher would say, well, there are some people who might as well not even come to this exam, and everybody would look at me and laugh. Well, I decided I was going to pass that exam. I didn't want to flunk, I just didn't want to study. I suppose a lot of people have been in that boat. But in my desperation, first of all, I tried to read the book night after night, starting a week before the exam. And each time after a sentence, I just put it down. I just wasn't in the mood. I'd had sort of a heartbreak at the time, as people of that age often go through, and I suppose that had something to do with it. Anyway, the night before the exam, I suddenly realized with horror that the next day I'd have to take this thing. And so I stumbled upon a principle that I think everybody can use. I said, I'm a Greek. And convincing my mind that I was a Greek, I found myself somehow absorbing this thing like a dry sponge in water. And I just went through the book, picking up all these expressions and rules and whatever. I had the good fortune, too, because we were reading the New Testament in Greek, to just before the exam, I thought, well, we've got 10 minutes. Let me just read one chapter of the many chapters that had been studied in the course, hoping that that would be the chapter that was on the exam. Well, fortunately it was. I read it in English, and therefore it was easy for me to translate it into English from the original Greek. Anyway, it was a fortunate experience. There were 2 people in the class who passed, and I was one of them. And you might say, well, that was an extraordinary talent. I say it was an extraordinary discovery. Talents individuals have and others don't have, but discoveries we can all share. And I think this was a great discovery, that if you can convince yourself that you are something, like Greek if you want to learn Greek, or a mathematician if you want to learn mathematics, or a successful businessman if you want to be a success as a businessman, then you'll be amazed at how much you can overcome of that paralyzing thought, like the 2 people pushing on opposite sides of a door that I mentioned earlier, and both of them working themselves to exhaustion, and the door doesn't move. And so you try to learn something, or you try to do or accomplish something, and the other half of your mind says it's foreign to you, you can't do it, you're not that type, and it's too difficult, and all these things that just sort of block you from being able to move. Well, convincing yourself you can do it sort of releases that energy, and everything flows in a unidirectional way. But I made another discovery in that, because I found that there were 2 words there, and one of them was important and the other wasn't. I am a Greek. Now when you put the emphasis on the pronoun I, you've seen a lot of braggarts boasting their way to success, but they never succeed. Sure, I can do anything, and they talk a big game, but when the game comes up, they're the losers. Why? Because it's the Greek you should concentrate on, not the I. The I is the stumbling block. Think about what it is that you're trying to do. When you define yourself in those terms, then you're not so much in danger of falling into the Peter principle, into the limitation of that self-definition. You're not wrapping yourself in a cocoon of this is what I am, and this is all that I am, and I'll never be able to do anything else. You're saying, I can do this. And that thought of being able to learn Greek, that thought of being able to succeed in this business venture, that thought of being able to overcome an obstacle that seemed to you insurmountable, when your mind is on the thing that you're trying to do rather than on you doing it, you will find that each self-definition of that sort, instead of being limiting, opens up new doorways. Oh, I could do that. Well, gee, maybe I could do this too. Maybe I could do that too. And if you want to develop magnetism in your leadership, then don't place limitations on yourself through your self-definition. Always be willing to enlarge on it. Not in the sense of boastfulness, I can do anything, but look, here we are, all human beings, aren't we? And some people have done it, and they're human beings. You're a human being. If human beings can do it, why can't you do it? As just another human being. Anything that anybody has done, you can do. It may take you a little while. They may be able to do it more easily. Who knows for what reasons? That doesn't matter. The fact is you can do it. So while defining yourself in terms of being able to do the things that you've done, don't live in that, and another important point is don't dwell on your past accomplishments. If you want to keep your magnetism, you know how people get when they're about 70 years old, and they're always talking about the great things they did when they were 25. Well, they're 70 now, they aren't 25, and they could still be doing great things if they would stop thinking about the past and resting on their laurels. So to expand your self-definition means also to leave what's done and go on. I was talking to an author the other day, and he mentioned that whenever people ask him what's his favorite book of the ones he's written, his answer always is, the one I'm working on now. And that's what your main self-definition should be, the thing you're doing right now, the accomplishment you're trying to perfect right now.